SpongeGex here. Now I know I'm very late to this, but yeah, let's talk about Multiversus. It was announced about a few years ago, and Super Smash Bros. And Warner Bros. Fans got very excited for Multiversus was announced as a Super Smash Bros. Clone starring many beloved characters from many WB properties, including Bugs Bunny and Marvin the Martian from Looney Tunes, Finn and Jake from Adventure Time, Batman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Superman, and Joker from the DC Comics, Gremlins, The Iron Giant, and many more. Over time, the game even got characters from more adult movies and shows like Rick and Morty, Game of Thrones, and Friday the 13th. At first, I was excited for Multiversus, until I heard that it was a free-to-play game and it works under an overpriced microtransaction scheme for unlocking all the characters and costumes. Not to mention how I saw the gameplay and I thought it looked awful. It was sluggish, floaty, and choppy, and apparently people who tested the game during its beta testing phase felt the exact same way. I was just too afraid to play this game because it was a free-to-play game and it required heavily on online gameplay, and I didn't want to waste my time on this just to find out that it would get shut down a few years later, like most of these games do. And of course, the inevitable happened, and about 3 years later, the game was announced to be shut down. The monetization no longer works, and the game will no longer support updates or online play on March 30th, 2025. Seriously, screw you, David Zaslav. Now, many fans were upset to hear this. It's especially worse when you realize that there was more planned for the game. Unused audio heavily implies that Daffy Duck was going to be added to the roster down the line, and as a farewell gift to the gamers, the devs added Aquaman and Lola Bunny to the roster. And many fans were apparently whining about Lola being added to the game, especially since it wasn't her Looney Tunes show design. Personally, I hate the Looney Tunes show. I don't care how good people say it is. I never found it funny. I hated how brain-dead and stalkerish Lola was in that show. So I was glad to see it. They used her DC comic design. I don't get why people hate that version of Lola or the Space Jam version of Lola so much. I just don't get it. People hated her because she's pretty or something. I don't know. So yeah, Lola may not have a very unique moveset. She seems to have a bunch of abilities that other characters already have. She mostly relies on throwing a basketball like LeBron James, and she has like some strong kick attacks, but I thought she was still a very fun addition, and she actually fits into the roster pretty well. I did remember hearing people say that they hope to see her in the game since the game was first announced, so yeah, it's great that we finally got her, but unfortunately a little too late. After all these years, I decided to finally try the game out. The only reason I decided to play it was because they confirmed that even when the game shuts down, the game will still be playable offline. If only they announced that ahead of time. If they announced that this game didn't require online to begin with, I gladly would have tried it out, but when they first announced it, I could have sworn this was an online-only game, so I figured no point in getting into it, no point in getting attached to it, because I don't want to lose everything you earn in that. So overall, the game is pretty flawed in my opinion, but I still had fun with it. The controls aren't as polished, fast, or smooth as Super Smash Bros. It takes a lot of getting used to. For instance, in Super Smash Bros., tapping the A button causes the characters to do a default attack for building up an opponent's damage meter, while flicking the joystick in any direction while holding and releasing the A button unleashes a charged smash attack. But in Multiversus, pressing the neutral attack button causes the character to do a forward smash attack. You have to move your character while pressing the neutral attack button to deal quicker paced attacks meant for dealing damage. That took a lot of getting used to. It doesn't help that the controls are very flipped around. I had to remap the controls to play more like Smash Bros. Just to make it feel more comfortable. It still plays very similarly to Super Smash Bros. You got the special attacks along with the up and down and side specials. You have the shielding, the dodge rolls, the air dodges. Sadly, there are less functionalities than there are in Smash Bros. There are no grab or throw attacks, and there are no tilt attacks, just side attacks. There's also no Final Smash equivalents, which is kind of a shame, and there are no spawn items, although some missions have a few generic throwable items like basketballs, bombs, or freezing gems, but they're very generic and forgettable. It's a shame we don't have any items from actual shows, like imagine having all the Looney arsenals from like Looney Tunes, like the anvils or portable holes and stuff like that, and what if we had Chemical X from Powerpuff Girls? That would have been a neat power-up that gives each character temporary flight, power boost, and laser blast. It annoys me how there aren't proper modes for this game. There isn't a training mode, nor a stage selection mode. There's just a random matchup mode for online play, and a single-player mode called Rift Mode. Rift mode is likely all players will be able to do once the game shuts down. The game feels incredibly incomplete. The levels are split across 5 seasons, with the first season feeling like the only one to be mostly complete. It sets up a story where the Joker teams up with the other WB villains as heroes from different worlds try to team up to take him down and restore the world, and obviously this story is never going to get resolved. This is the only season to have intro cutscenes, getting players hyped up with hilarious and action-packed scenarios with these different characters interacting with each other. I mean, where else are you going to see Finn, Gizmo, and Velma teaming up to hide from Jason Voorhees, or Bugs Bunny fighting against Agent Smith from The Matrix? I would have loved to have seen more of these with the later characters we got, like Samurai Jack, the Powerpuff Girls, Raven from Teen Titans, but nope, we only had 4 cutscenes for the first season, and that was it. The first season also had the most chapters, but the later seasons only have about 3 or 4 chapters, making them feel way too short and underwhelming. The rifts are typical challenges like defeating the opponents under a time limit, but having to have some different gimmicks or hazards. Some levels will have items that we can throw, some will have stat effects, like hitting opponents enough will cause them to freeze or turn into a turkey, or a lot of weird stuff. The fight challenges aren't too bad, but the worst part of this are the bonus nodes, which are just these bad minigames. You gotta break the target's clone, but the gameplay here is insufferable because, unlike many of the players from Smash Bros. Who were built with platforming in mind, none of the characters in this game were built for platforming, making it near impossible for many of these characters to reach the targets with ease. They're too slow, their jumps are too short, not even wall jumping or aerial specials will make these stages any better. You got repetitive cannon and tank minigames, a race car minigame, a jump rope minigame, and worst of all, the golf minigame with Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty. It's like, none of these feel like they belong in a fighting game, and they're just not very fun. A lot of them just feel like copy and paste challenges. If we fail these minigames, it doesn't help that we gotta go through a long-ass loading screen to try again. Not to mention, for every mission and minigame, there's a checklist for accomplishments that require us to beat missions with certain characters, needing to use certain attacks for a number of times, or other dumb requirements. The worst part is that there's a requirement for each mission that requires us to be playing with a second player, making it near impossible. The worst part is that there's a requirement for each mission that requires playing with a second player, making it impossible for single players to 100% this game, especially since the game will be going offline someday. There's also boss fights which are bigger than regular battles, like needing to fire cannons to shoot down the Joker's hot air balloon, smashing these crystals to break Jason's invincibility so we can try knocking him out, having to fight a giant gremlin while smashing his eggs before they hatch into more gremlins. And strangely enough, there's a boss fight against a corrupt version of Dexter's robot, along with a few stages themed after Dexter's laboratory, yet there's no Dexter playable at all, so it is really weird to have a stage themed after a certain show and then have no characters in the roster from that show. The game's roster is honestly a real mixed bag. There's some real crowd pleasers here, but there's so many characters missing, along with characters that no one asked for. Seriously, Banana Guard from Adventure Time. Why such a minor background character and not a more noteworthy character like the Ice King? I'm shocked they never added like Green Lantern, the other Teen Titans, or Catwoman. I've seen people complain that there aren't enough Hanna-Barbera reps, like people said they wanted to see Fred Flintstone, Harvey Birdman, or Space Ghost. It's still a shame to hear that the game is shutting down, especially since the game has so many characters and unlockables that require playing online to get. We don't have the option to buy Gleam Gems anymore, so the only way to unlock stuff is to grind through daily missions and Rift mode to slowly earn experience needed to earn loot crates. And as far as I know, I'm guessing that the daily missions will be gone once online shuts down. It's too bad they can't have them randomly generated each month for offline play. Some of the stuff is already permanently locked, never to be seen again by newcomers. And this is another reason why I absolutely hate modern games, especially mobile games with microtransactions. I miss being able to just earn stuff by simply earning in-game currency or beating objectives just by playing the game. Overall, I had the most fun playing as Lola. She may have a simple moveset, but her basketball is the best part of her moveset. With correct timing, we can pull off some neat combos involving Lola bumping the ball back into opponents, really ramming them and bouncing them around. It's a really cool moveset, honestly. I've seen some online players show off some really cool combo videos with Lola's moveset. The most impressive character to me was Tom and Jerry. Now, I've never seen such a creative playable character in a fighting game. So instead of working together to fight off the opponents, we're controlling Tom as he's chasing Jerry, and all of Tom's attacks involve him and Jerry fighting. To me, that's hilarious. It comes across as Tom and Jerry's wildest chase ever. Their chase got so insane that they somehow ended up in other dimensions, and their chase causes such insane damage to everyone around them. It's honestly the most creative use of a playable character I've ever seen for a licensed fighting crossover. To add to the hilarity, they even used Tom's classic William Hanna screams from the classic shorts when he gets knocked off screen or falls. Despite taking so long to finally try the game out, I really did enjoy it overall despite how flawed it is. It's not perfect, it could be considered a bad game, but it's a fun game regardless. It is a shame that the game has to shut down, despite how the game finally got patches to fix some gameplay issues. Fans are saying the game is better now, but it's just too late, since we have just less than 2 months to play the game before it's dead. The other night, I asked my friend Steph if she wanted to play the game with me, and we spent about 3 hours playing co-op through the Rift mode, and we had a good time overall. It's too bad the game can't at least allow friend matchups to still be possible. I could care less about random matchups going away, but why do friend matchups have to go away as well? Again, this is another reason why I didn't want to play the game to begin with, because it sucks to get attached to something when you know it's not going to last. I would have rather we had to have just waited 3 full years for a $40 to $50 game fully completed, with all the characters and costumes unlockable within the gameplay, with online as a fun side feature. I prefer games that can equally allow players to unlock content whether they're online or offline. Games built around single and local multiplayer are the best, and online should always be a side option to enhance the game, not be the main or only way to play it. Games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate are games that perfectly demonstrate this. Someday, the servers for those games will likely shut down, and when that happens, players will still be able to unlock everything fairly, thanks to the single-player modes. So, Multiversus was just a wasted potential. I'll bet if it released as a complete retail game, it would have sold a lot better. I can't guarantee it would have been a success, but it would have sold better. But the damage was done. People weren't fooled by it when it first was announced. They saw it as a terrible microtransaction trap, and they didn't fall for it. And as a result, the game flopped. I mean, buying a single character or costume in a video game should not have to cost over $20 a piece. Gamers deserve so much better, and companies really need to quit this. It's just getting worse, and nothing good is coming from it, so just stop. Anyways, that's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.